Smile, though your heart is aching. Smile, even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through for you. Light up your face with gladness. Hide every trace of sadness. Although a tear may be ever so near, that's the time you must keep on trying. Smile. What's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you'll just smile. Well, for sentimental reasons, because of the people and events that represents to me, I've had a lifelong affinity with that song. But it isn't a favorite. It's far from a favorite. It's evocative of a number of things that are meaningful to me. However, I have to confess that the words of that song ring hollow for me. Pretend to be happy, and you'll be happy. You know that won't work, don't you? And I believe that laughter is good medicine. And I know that when something catches me just right and I can get a good laugh, that can sometimes really help me to come out of a funk if I'm in a bad mood or something. But I've never been able to make myself happy by pretending to be happy. Partly because, for me, and maybe I'm not that unusual, but my emotions run deep and slow. When something sad or traumatic happens, it's often days or weeks before it really begins to sink in. Usually long after everybody else seems to be putting it behind them. But also because I know that my attitude doesn't change the material facts. Whatever has happened will still have happened. And while a positive attitude can be helpful, it can only go so far. And should only go so far. I mean, it isn't healthy to never be sad. It isn't healthy to never be angry, to never be at a loss, to never be in pain. So the fact that painting on a smile doesn't work as an expurgative for sadness is really kind of beside the point. It's immaterial compared to the fact that it's fundamentally dishonest to smile when you're angry. To smile when you're sad. Smile though your heart is breaking. You know what they call people who smile when they're really despondent? People who smile when they're angry? Psychotic. Either that or just liars. I don't trust people who wear painted on smiles. That's one of the reasons I find clowns so creepy. Clowns scare me to death. They always have. And frankly, that's one of the worst things about the presidential primary season is watching candidates answer questions through Cheshire smiles when you know that down inside they're mad enough to spit nails that this question has been asked of them. But it's even more poignant when that happens in the church. Have you ever met a church bully? I've met a few. People who try to control things through intimidation and fear. But the worst ones are the ones who smile all the time. The worst tongue lashings I've ever taken, the worst gut punches I've ever taken have been from people who smile while they're doing it. Give me an honestly angry man any day over someone who smiles when he's angry. The Bible has a word for that kind of behavior, for the duplicity of presenting yourself with a friendly or harmless or cheerful demeanor when your actual state of heart is in turmoil. And that word is guile. God hates guile. Guile was the tool that the doctrinaires and jurisprudes used to place Jesus under arrest. Matthew 26, 3 through 4. Then assembled together the chief priests and the scribes and the elders of the people unto the palace of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas, and consulted they that they might take Jesus by subtlety, by guile, and kill him. But the psalmist says, Blessed is the man whom the Lord imputes not iniquity, and in whose spirit there is no guile. Now today I want to talk to you about guile, but only a certain kind of guile. A kind of guile that most of us wouldn't recognize upon first glance as guile. Because today I'm not talking about hidden motives. I'm not talking about inviting people over to your house for dinner and then trying to sell them Amway, though that's manifestly wicked. I'm not talking about calling someone and making small talk for a few minutes before you get around to what you really called them about, though that's kind of annoying. You know, I'd much prefer someone just call and say, hey, can you do something for me? Rather than making a lot of small talk before getting into what they're looking for. I've got very few people in my life who, when they call and say, well, how are you? What I'm thinking is, save it. Just tell me what you want. Save us both some time. Yeah, that's what bothers me about that Terminix commercial. You've seen this one where the house comes alive and the face comes out from the wall and starts talking? Emily hates that commercial because it's creepy. That the house comes alive and starts talking. What I hate about it is that the face is dissembling. That its opening volley is, hey, this is my favorite program too. Did you know that termites do more damage than hail and fire and brimstone all put together? Its opening volley is about something entirely different than what you really want to talk about. That's what bothers me about the creepy house. But however bothersome that kind of thing is, that's not what I'm talking about today. What I want to talk about today is the kind of guile that we engage in out of a desire to act properly, out of a desire to be appropriate before the Lord. Because too often, in our effort to be respectful, we lie to God. We lie to God by withholding the true desires of our heart. We lie to God by saying to him what we think we ought to say, rather than what we really want to say to him in prayer. We lie to God by presenting ourselves to him as better people than we really are. But you can't come to God as the person you ought to be. You can only come to God as the person that you really are. It's kind of like trying to go to the gym and pretend that you're in great shape. It doesn't make any sense. You know, in my Bible class that I teach here on Sunday morning, is it, what time does Bible class start? 9:30. Yeah. It's a really great class here at 9:30, by the way, for everyone. I really encourage people to say what they really want to say. Don't give me your best church answer. Don't tell me the right answer. Tell me what you really think. If a passage of the Bible doesn't make any sense to you, say, this doesn't make any sense to me. Or I can't reconcile this with the other things that I know and believe. And this class here at Steamboat has been pretty good about that. People are pretty honest with each other in this class. However, even among the best realists, what I've found is that people are somewhat less honest with God when it comes to prayer. The 9th commandment says, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Yet we willingly and regularly bear false witness against ourselves before the Lord. How? The way that the prophet describes in Jeremiah 6:13 and following, for from the least of them even unto the greatest, every one of them is given to covetousness. And from the prophet even to the priest, everyone deals falsely. My people are mortally wounded, and they offer palliatives, saying, peace, peace. And there's no peace. Now, we don't do that to one another, as far as I know, but we do that to ourselves in representing ourselves to the Lord. Because when we come to God in prayer, we're so concerned with being respectful and being appropriate and having the right attitude that we lie going out the gate. Oh, not every time, but sometimes. By misrepresenting ourselves and misrepresenting the desires of our hearts. Because we imagine that trusting God means that we can't question Him. We know that God knows the secrets of our hearts, but we try to hide the secrets of our hearts from Him anyway. Because we imagine that God would rather have us be polite with Him than be forthcoming with Him. And so when we're feeling desperate, when we're feeling abandoned by God, when God seems distant and aloof, when things are going wrong and are getting wronger and wronger by the day, when we have been bringing our petitions before the Lord for years and years, and God says nothing in response, and we've suffered loss and grief and injury and insult, and our hearts are in agony, and we know that God can fix it, but He doesn't. Still, we come to God in prayer in such a way that we deny that anything is wrong, pretending that we're not angry with God, acting as if we don't feel let down, making like we don't resent God's silence. Well, I don't know about any of you, but I am sometimes angry with God. I do sometimes feel let down. I do sometimes resent God's apparent unresponsiveness. Beloved, when you're standing in the middle of a downpour, it's one thing to say, I don't mind the rain. But it's another thing entirely to say, I'm not getting wet. I'm not talking about cursing God. I'm not talking about shaking your fist at heaven. I'm not talking about turning your back on God. I'm talking about dealing with Him honestly. Coming to Him forthrightly with your heart bare. Do any of you ever watch the television show House? I like that show. It's one of my favorites. Now, I don't know what it is. It's probably a character flaw on my part. But I love watching Dr. Gregory House rake people over the coals. He's so mean. And maybe I live out my meanness through him, that it's just a vicarious joy to watch him beat people up. But I do. I love watching it. One of his mantras, and if you don't know the show, he's a doctor, he's a diagnostician, and one of the best in the world, and they send him all the difficult cases, and he tries to figure out what's wrong with people, and no one else can figure out what's wrong with them. One of his mantras is, everybody lies. And usually, in the course of the show, it turns out that he's right, because the patient has withheld some vital piece of information from him that turns out to be medically relevant. And that's why he always sends his staff to break into their house and go through their personal things, so he can discover what they're lying to him about. Think about it. When you go to the doctor for a complaint and he asks, how much does it hurt? And you say, well, it's a 3. When it's really a 9. How much sense does that make? And in the same way, when we go to the great physician, and we come to him in prayer, we come to our God who says, cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. When we come to him and he says, where does it hurt? And we say, oh, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. When the real answer is, God, it hurts right here. Right here is where it hurts, God. Right here in prayer. right here before your throne, where I've been bringing my concern to you for years and years and years, and as far as I can tell, you haven't done a blessed thing. That's where it hurts. Now, you might think that kind of talk is sinful. You might think that sounds disrespectful. I don't think it is sinful. What's sinful is to say, peace, peace, where there is no peace. To say, it is well with my soul, when your soul is in despair. Like saying, it is well with my soul, makes it true. I'm reminded of that horrible song that we sang in VBS when I was a kid. It isn't any trouble, just to S-M-I-L-E. Did you have to sing this wretched thing? It isn't any trouble, just to S-M-I-L-E. Whenever you're in trouble, it will vanish like a bubble if you'll only take the trouble. Just to S-M-I-L-E. Horse hockey. Smiling does not make your troubles go away. Believe me, I tried it once when I was a kid. I was in trouble and I smiled and I got extra days grounding for being a wise guy. That didn't endear me to my parents one bit. Well, testifying that you're full of joy over what God has done for you when in truth you're full of anxiety and questioning and heartache because of what God hasn't done for you doesn't endear you to God either. That's not faithfulness. That's false testimony. It's false testimony. I'm reminded of those awful emails that go around. You get them. The ones with the big headliners that say, this is true, this is really, really true, this really happened. I know the person that this happened to, and this is, you have to read this because this is really, really true. And then you read it, and it's some sappy story that's highly embellished. It doesn't have enough details to verify it, and you know it's not true. That never really happened to anybody. You know the one about the student who challenged the professor who is an atheist, and he stands up before his college class and says, if I drop this piece of chalk, if there is a God, he can stop it from breaking when it hits the floor. And he says, who will take the challenge? That story's been circulating on email since as long as there's been email. And before that, it circulated for 20 years in chain mail. But yet, I was in the audience when a famous Church of Christ youth minister, who shall remain nameless, told that story in the first person. He told that story like he was the student who said, I'll take the challenge. And with his prayer caused the chalk not to break. Now the audience loved it. They cheered. And it made 1,000 teenagers there feel great about God. The only problem with the story is it isn't true. It never happened to anybody, and it certainly never happened to this joker. It's false testimony. God doesn't need your help to stand alone in the arena of truth and come out the winner. And your testimony, when it isn't true, does more harm than it does good. God isn't flattered by false testimony. And it doesn't make him feel any better about you when you cry, peace, peace, when there is no peace. When you come to God and thank him for things that you're not thankful for. When you stand before God and say, all I want is you, when you've already got him, and you're still in despair. That isn't the way that the heroes of faith prayed. That isn't the way Abraham prayed. That's not the way Jacob prayed. That's not the way David prayed. When Abraham bartered with God over the destruction of Sodom, he didn't say, well, my nephew and his family, they live there, but whatever you think, God, thy will be done, not mine. No. He stood toe-to-toe with God and said, this is not right. Surely there's a better way. When Moses prayed with God for his brethren, when he prayed for the children of Israel, he didn't say, not my will, but thine be done. He said, no. I'd rather you blotted my name from the book of life than that you destroy my brethren. Now, Moses stood up for unrighteousness too many times. And he paid a heavy price for standing up for unrighteousness so many times. And if you want to know more about that, come back next week and I'll tell you about that. Nevertheless, God honored his prayer and relented from destroying the children of Israel. He didn't pretend to be happy with God when he wasn't happy with God. You know, one of the best examples of this are in the Psalms. The psalmists let their hearts pour out, and they don't hold anything back. The psalmists are honest with God. They tell him what they really think, what's really on their minds. And I'm going to read a few passages here from some Psalms. And I don't have them printed for you. I don't have slides for them because I don't want you to read them. And I'm going to try to read them out here in a way that it doesn't sound like they're being read. You know that voice that we take on when we're reading something that you can always tell something's being read? I'm going to try to do a little bit better with this here. Because I want you to hear these. I want you to hear these words that are being said as prayer. Because this is what they are. Listen to this passage from Psalm 6. And these are all from the Right Word translation of the Psalms. Psalm 6. Yahweh, don't let me get caught up in the heat of your anger. I'm not in need of a reprimand. I won't benefit from a good dressing down. What I need from you right now, Yahweh, is your compassion, your healing touch. I'm worn out, weary to the bone. My spirit is wrung out, Yahweh, fatigued to its very marrow. How much longer will it be? Do something, Yahweh. Save me. If not for the sake of my life, then for the sake of your mercy. I've gone hoarse from groaning. I've grown myopic with grief. Every night I drench my pillow, soak my bed with tears. My outlook deteriorates little by little as my enemies press in, demoralizing me. Will I remember you in death? Will I sing your praises from Sheol? Or this selection from Psalm 13 where the psalmist is quite frank, really very blunt with God. Yahweh, how much longer will you ignore me? How much longer will you hide your face from me? How much longer will I be in pain? My spirit plagued day and night with despondency. How much longer will my enemies have the upper hand? Will I have to wait to the age to come? Look at me, Yahweh. Answer me. Elohim, my God. If my eyes never sparkle again before I succumb to the sleep of death, my enemies, those who have oppressed me, will get the satisfaction of watching me go down and will gloat, saying, we've beaten him. As for me, Yahweh, I will continue to trust in your faithful love. Fully anticipating the day when I will rejoice, he has set me free. Then I will sing to you, Yahweh, because you will have showered me with rich blessings. Or listen to these powerful words from Psalm 38, where the psalmist questions God and his administration of justice. Yahweh, punish me, but don't be angry with me. Correct me, but don't hate me. Your arrows have wounded me deeply, and your hand is firmly pressing me down. My constitution is breaking down because of your anger. I have no strength in my bones because of my sin. I'm overwhelmed with guilt, and the burden is too heavy for me. Because of my foolishness, I have smelly festering sores. I'm doubled over with pain. I'm despondent. I'm rattled to the core with an ache that never lets up. My body is falling apart. I'm having bouts of delirium during which I moan out loud. Yahweh, you know what I long for. You know the full meaning of my sighs. My heart is failing me. I'm losing my strength. My eyes are growing dim. My friends, even my closest friends and members of my own family, are put off by my sores. Meanwhile, there are still people out there laying traps for me, cooking up schemes, hoping to hurt me, bring me down, kill me. As for me, I ignore them. I act as though I were deaf and dumb. I don't let on when I overhear them. I say nothing that would bewray me. Instead, I continue. I continue to hope in Yahweh, because I know that Yahweh Elohim, my God, will answer me. That's why I appeal to him, saying, prevent them from gloating over me. Don't let them take advantage of me if my foot should slip. Even so, I may surrender to the pain just to get some relief. After all, here I am confessing my guilt, doing penance for my sins, while my enemies multiply, redoubling their forces against me. This is just not right. This is not just. Would you repay kindness with evil? Would you indict me for doing good? Yahweh Elohim, my God, don't forsake me. Don't stand aloof. Come quickly. Help me. Adonai, my Savior. Or consider this passage from Psalm 44, where the psalmist expresses bitter disappointment in God. Elohim, we've heard the testimony given by our forefathers of all the works you performed back in their day. How back a long time ago you drove the heathens out of the land and by your hand planted our people in their place. They didn't conquer the land with their swords. They didn't achieve victory through superior weaponry. The battle was won by your right hand, by your arm, by the light of your face, by the providence of your love. It was you, Elohim, my King, who won those victories for Jacob. Through you, we defeated our enemies. Through your name, we conquered our opponents. My confidence does not reside in this old bow of mine. My sword is not the victor. The victory is thine. By you our foes were conquered. To you we must resign. The downfall of our enemies was wrought by hands divine. Now, we never failed to give glory to Elohim. We faithfully praised your name. Yet, now you've discarded us, humiliated us. You no longer march with our armies. You let our enemies push us back. You suffer our opponents to pillage us at will. You allow us to be slaughtered like sheep. You permit us to be scattered among the nations. You have so devalued your people that we don't even go for a good price at market. We're insulted by our neighbors. We're anathema to those around us. We're a byword among the pagans. We're the laughingstock of the nations. My shame is ever before me. I hide my face because of the disgrace that besets me as I'm barraged with abuse and insults. I am the epitome of odium and enmity. Yet, even though all this has befallen us, we haven't forgotten you. We haven't read between the lines of your covenant. Our hearts haven't turned away from you. Our steps haven't left your path. Even though you're driving us to extinction, burying us in darkness right next to the dinosaurs, we will not forget the name of Elohim or stretch out our hands to counterfeit gods. Can't you see that, Elohim? Don't you know what lays hidden in our hearts? Indeed, It's for your sake that we're being massacred daily. It's for your sake that we're being slaughtered like sheep. Do something, Yahweh. What is it? Are you asleep? Get up. Don't stand aloof from us forever. Why are you hiding your face? Have you forgotten that we're being debased and exploited? Our souls are surrendering to the dust. Our bodies are returning to the earth. Arise! Come to our rescue. Redeem us according to the demands of your faithful love. When you look at Psalm 39, you see in the superscript that this was written in memory of Jeduthun, who apparently died of cancer. And David here, who has written this psalm, apparently is recording some of Jeduthun's final words or last thoughts. I was determined to bridle my tongue, to keep a muzzle over my mouth, so that it would not lead me into sin as I dealt with this malignity. So I remained mute. I kept silent. I held my peace. I thought this was good, but it only heightened my anxiety. My heart had been smoldering within me, and the more I dwelt on the matter, the hotter the fire within me burned. And then at last the words rolled off my tongue. Yahweh, let me know my fate. How many days do I have left? How bad is my condition? You've given me just a handful of days to live. Of course, no human being lives longer than a puff of wind, a trice, compared to your existence. Indeed, for humankind, life is but a walking shadow, accumulating a big pile of nothing for the benefit of unknown persons. So tell me, Yahweh, what will happen next? I put my hope in you, and you freed me from all of my sins. You delivered me when I was being disgraced by fools. Then I fell silent and didn't call on you for a while because you were taking care of everything. Remove this cancer from me. I'm exhausted with this scourge you've laid upon me. When you rebuke someone, punishing him for his sins, do you eat away at him like a moth, ravaging everything that made his life worth living? Is his life really no more than a puff of wind? Hear my prayer, Yahweh. Listen to my cry for help. Don't disregard my tears. I will be a guest at your table soon. For I'm a sojourner here, just as my ancestors were. As soon as you turn your face and withdraw your breath, I will leave this place and go hence. Now, more examples could be given, but no more are needed. You get the idea. Sometimes prayer is formal and formulaic. Sometimes prayer is nothing but joy and thanksgiving. Sometimes it's a reverie with God. Sometimes a tryst with God. Sometimes a transporting experience that wings your spirit to worlds unknown. But sometimes, if you're honest with God, prayer is raw, rough, unhewn, bare-knuckled, rough and tumble, gut-wrenching, heart-rending, and real. You know, I've been to a lot of funerals in my lifetime, and when I lose someone that I really got along with well, I feel a poignant sense of loss. But I have never hurt like I hurt when I go to the funeral of someone with whom I have really fought. Someone whom I have really engaged. Someone who pushed me to my limit and with whom I pushed back. Someone that I've really contended with. Because I think that you never really know someone until you've engaged them on a visceral level. Until you've contended with them about something that really matters and fought as though it really matters. Likewise, I don't think you know God until you've contended with Him. Until you've contended with Him like the great prayers of the Bible contended with Him. Until it's real enough. Until God is real enough and trustworthy enough to you that you, like Jacob, would grab hold of Him and say, I will not let go. I will not let go until you bless me. That's prayer. That's faithing. That's action based on belief, sustained by confidence in God. And that's my lesson for today.